Good evening. And tonight on the Extreme Cinema podcast, we have a terrifying picture. With me as ever is Dom Loach. How you
I'm
been,
not doing
Dom?
the voice. I had no idea you were going to do that. You just surprised me with that.
I'm gonna do the whole episode like it.
Could you imagine?
Extreme Cinema podcast episode on Frenzy, runtime 3 hours.
Sturdy talked for all of it.
uh,
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. And we are doing, I think, is this an obscure Hitchcock? Is this an underrated Hitchcock? I mean, we're talking about a Hitchcock film, so
Underrated, definitely. Especially what people say about it, which we'll get into. I think underrated.
underrated. I mean, it is, but people are like coming around to it very, very slowly. This is Hitchcock's most shocking film. It's on the Extreme
Yes.
Cinema podcast for a reason, and I kind of thought, when we were planning this, I'm like, okay, we are stretching doing Frenzy, but I want to, do it
Do a Hitchcock.
do a
Yeah.
Hitchcock, and Hitchcock's one of the greatest of all time for many, many reasons. And then I watched it again a couple nights ago. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm stretching it. This is fucking brutal.
No, after I watched it again, I was like, holy shit, this came out, what, 72? I was like,
72?
wow. Oh, the one scene. Oh my god! Like,
Yeah. I mean, even from the start, I think when I watched this, I must have been a teenager or something. And it didn't quite get like when the body's floating down the Thames at the start
mhm.
and she's strangled naked with like the necktie. That's obviously like super super darkly sexual. I don't think that quite
Yeah,
clicked as a teenager of me, but like already from like the first few images of the film, it's like this is Hitchcock pushing boundaries even still in the 70s.
yeah, definitely. I mean, this film is easily his most boundary pushing, and people, I guess they always saw Hitchcock as boundary pushing, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. In Psycho, obviously, in the 60s, with the suggestion of nudity, and then just full frontal in this,
Well,
just full on, like,
that's one of the things I want to say. I think it's very emblematic. Of this film is very emblematic of the fact that how much society liberalized in the 60s. Um,
yeah, yeah,
because Psycho, you you had that shower sequence which was so shocking. It's all implied. There's something like 72 cuts in it or something like that. Something mad.
yeah,
In a few seconds, and that shower sequence was shocking and terrifying. And in the same year as Psycho, you had Peeping Tom came out, and Peeping Tom had that darker sexual undertone that Frenzy has. Maybe we'll compare it
yeah.
more a bit later on. That ruined Michael Powell's career. Dead, one of the greatest British directors of all time, because that was so shocking.
Hmm.
Fast forward 12 years later, and this doesn't, people are talking about how this film is shocking and it's very sexual, but I mean, I don't think there was a big move to ban this or anything. People were more used to it, and I saw an interview.
No, no.
Because another film to compare is came out the year prior to this is Straw Dogs, and Hitchcock
True.
was asked by the BBC, did you want to compete with Straw Dogs? And he was like, "No, I haven't seen Straw Dogs." Was his answer.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
After
Uh,
I didn't make the connection to Straw Dogs, but yeah, because I'd not seen that interview. But we watched Straw Dogs together, and that is a shocking old film.
That's fantastic. I watched it, at your flat, and I remember when the church
Yeah,
sequence
yeah,
was happening with all the crazy editing, I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" I mean, I think that might have been the first Sam Peckinpah I watched, maybe.
yeah. So yeah, definitely emblematic of this. And you said there was no uproar. Definitely not at all for this. Like some critics were calling it boring. Like, which is it's so like a few years after people were in uproar about much less crazy films. It's so weird.
There's I think one, Hitchcock could get away with it because he's Hitchcock, and two,
Yeah.
there's this really interesting dichotomy. I think in some of the critical reviews, which I do agree with. On the one hand, you have this 70s rape, murder, dark, psychosexual tone. On the other hand, it's kind of like one of Hitchcock's 1940s films. Like, there is an
Yeah. Yeah.
element of it being a bit old fashioned and a bit boundary pushing and shocking at the same time. And Hitchcock can really pull that in. I mean, after Psycho, some of Hitchcock's 60s films aren't the best. Like, Time magazine said that this is like a return to form for Hitchcock after the dark days of Marnie and Topaz. I've not seen Topaz. Marnie is 100% the worst Hitchcock film I've ever seen. I was so unbelievably disappointed by that.
Yeah, I don't think
And
I've seen either.
Marnie was so annoying, right? Because it's got Sean Connery and Tippi Hedren. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I watched it, and like halfway through, I was like, oh, this is bad. Like, it's really uninteresting. They're not well-rounded characters at all. It's actually fairly bland directing from Hitchcock, whereas this, like,
Wow.
there's almost a kind of avant-garde quality to this at points. Not in like a proper, like in a Stan Bracker sense, but like
No.
there are some shots in this, particularly a very famous shot where Anna Massey's character's being murdered, where it just
Yeah, yeah.
backs out the door. I was like, this is
Out the door,
chilling.
yeah.
Chilling. I think that's the best shot in the film.
Oh, yeah, by far, yeah. Beautiful shot film. Amazing direction. Which is funny because Hitchcock wasn't on site the entire time, from what I read. But
Yeah, no, I saw an interview where he was directing someone from his hotel room in the Hilton via
yeah,
walkie-talkie. And I was like, that's ridiculous.
it's like one of those, like, that should be a broken movie, but this is fantastic. Like, I thought, because I've seen this before, and obviously I watched it again, I thought this would just be, like, universally accepted. Like,
Yeah,
because I'd never really looked into it much and stuff, and then going into it for this, I was like, oh, not at all. Like, it's not like Hitchcock's other ones. Like, Tarantino called it shit, I think.
yeah,
Like,
Tarantino called it a piece of crap.
yeah,
I was like, and refuses to elaborate. It's really annoying because
it's so weird.
I dug up the quote, and because he's writing about Brian De Palma, and he just said making thrillers are very fun. I'm sure Frenzy is a piece of crap, but I'm sure Hitchcock had a lot of fun doing it. Yeah, the directing. I mean, for me, there are two directors who are the master of subtle camera movements, and what's very funny is I think at the time, both these directors were not considered subtle camera movements. It's just by today's standards they really are. And one is
Yeah,
Kurosawa and the other Hitchcock. Like, doesn't the scene where the camera's panning out the panning moving down the staircase in
moving.
reverse,
Yeah,
that's very showy, but most of it's just little tilts, little movements, and it's so effective. The camera only does something like that when it absolutely needs to, and you just think,
yeah.
wow, this is filmmaking.
It's Hitchcock, isn't he? He knew when to be subtle about it. He knew when to, which he did most of the time in a lot of his movies. But he was always subtle about the movements and everything. He understood how to move a camera as a director, which is lacking in most cinema now.
100%. And I think I think noting that as well, and people don't realize Hitchcock started in the fucking 20s. Hitchcock's first
yeah,
two films were silent. Like, he's coming from such an, beginnings of filmmaking, essentially. Um, it's insane. And the fact he was able to make a career out of that, spanning the 30s with, 39 steps, the 40s with something like Rebecca, the 50s, which is, his golden age, Vertigo, Rear Window, North by Northwest, Psycho,
50s.
which is
Yeah,
1960. And then in the 70s, still doing something like Frenzy. Like, this is his second last film. And like I said, some of it is old fashioned, but some of it is still boundary pushing. And when we get into what this film was originally meant to be a bit later on, I mean, this is a glimpse, a small glimpse, is what would have happened if Hitchcock was 20 years younger and, was making films a few decades later when he could get away with anything he wanted.
yeah. Slight diversion. Have you seen Family Plot? Because I've not.
Nope.
No, that's his last film as well. I should probably see it.
It is. It's in the box set I've got. And I also thought that when I was flipping over to my copy of Frenzy yesterday.
Yeah, because I own Frenzy as well. It's in. I have a few Hitchcock box sets.
Oh, yeah, you do. Because, I mean, the DVD ones are all super cheap. The Blu-ray now must come from nothing.
Yeah, this man made a lot of films, didn't he?
Oh,
Holy
well,
shit.
was this his 50th?
Something like that by the looks, yeah.
Yeah, insanely prolific. I mean, films he used to crank out one a year, basically, sometimes two a year.
God, that run sturdy. Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, The Birds. Like,
Rope as well, and there's elements of Rope in this, I feel, with
Rope,
some of the
yeah.
long takes.
Well, Rope's like his first incredible movie, I
Nah,
think.
Rebecca, mate, Rebecca.
Ah,
Fuck it. I
Rebecca,
mean,
yeah.
39 Steps is okay, maybe. Dial M for Murder. I think that might have been after Rebecca though. Um,
That's after, yeah.
The
But
Lodger is bloody excellent.
because Rope's 40s.
Rope is the no, surely Rope is the 50s.
Yeah, 1948.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, this man's crazy. Like,
And
what a
Rope was
director.
also fucking shocking. Well, Rope was shocking because it was gay, and now it's very dated because
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that subtext.
This has become a Hitchcock special. We will get back to Friendship.
I could talk about Hitchcock for fucking hours. Yeah, one of my
Yeah, no.
absolute favorite. Like I said, subtle and uh, Hitchcock, British director, and this is his return to Britain. This was his first British film since Stage Fright, which is 1950, because he went off to America.
It did him all in America, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood legend. And then he comes back to Britain for this, and he was asked why, and he just said the story demanded it. It needed to be a bit grittier. And we've got some brilliant top British actors, and he also said that he didn't want, like, British people would know who they are, but he was like, he didn't want Americans to know who the actors were. He thought it,
Yeah.
needed to be more realistic. John Finch, obviously fucking excellent. But you've got in the first scene after the cold open where the dead body's found, Bernard Cribbins,
Bernard Cribbins,
Bernard
yeah.
Cribbins, and Anna Massey, who is one of my favorite British actors, very underrated, should have been leading lady in like so much and wasn't. Also that Peeping Tom connection, she's fucking excellent in this too. It's so great, and it's shot on location. It's like my favorite London film, I think, because I love looking at this time capsule of like 1970s London, like Covent Garden Market now. I mean, it's not a real, it's like tourists
Yeah.
basically. I mean, that was like a real place. The pub, which is now closed, the Globe, that's a real pub. It's now called the Bow Street Tavern because it's on Bow Street. And you Google the Globe pub, and the first thing is a review on it from like Web 2.0 calling it the worst pub I've ever been to, which is hysterical.
I was going to ask how much of this film you recognize.
All of it,
All of
100%
it.
of it.
Yeah.
Maybe when they were in the sort of penthouse suite looking down, I was trying to work out where it is, but like Leicester Square, and you can't drive around
Obviously,
that
yeah.
anymore. And I was looking out the back of the car window to work out where they were going. I mean, it's all central London. Obviously, the opening is on the South Bank. That used to be where the GLC used to sit, and now it's no, the aquarium closed down. I think it's now like the Shrek experience or something in there.
Yeah, we walked past that not too long ago. Yeah,
We
we did.
did walk past that. That that opening scene. I mean, one, did you catch him? Did you catch our boy?
Oh, Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I did, and then I read about it as well. Is like in the crowd wearing a hat, like
yeah. Well, sometimes it's subtle and sometimes it's not subtle. I think this is one. He's just always looks so out of place.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he is an odd-looking man anyway.
Yeah, but like this film as well has such a dark, morbid sense of humor throughout it. Like this politician talking about like all the litter running down the river, and then this body like washes
Yeah,
up. It's very
that's the
subtle.
thing. It's like it's dark comedy. This, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
he wanted it to be funny, and you can tell quite clearly. In his most like controversial film, he tried to be funny. I mean, what a baller move! Like,
Well, Kubrick said the same about A Clockwork Orange. He said to us to him we were making a comedy, and Clockwork Orange definitely has moments of comedy, but I think that is even way too shocking to
I
be as
mean,
intentionally funny.
yeah, I think that might be somewhere over the rainbow there, but
But yeah, I mean, the actual murderer, he's such this like slightly comical gangster character in his three-piece suit, his pinstripe suit.
yeah,
And when he's revealed to be the murderer, it's shocking. And I love the first 20, 30 minutes of this film, because you have Hitchcock at this point is aware that people are aware of how movies work, and he wants to subvert that. So you have the two lawyers talking about, oh, the sex murderer case in the pub, when you have the
yeah.
main character sitting there. And the implication of the film is he is the sex murderer, the way it's done, like filmmaking wise. But then you stop and think, is this like Hitchcock being like, oh, people won't notice this? Or is it being like, I want a red herring? Because it's not
Uh-huh.
like the most obvious red herring ever. It's clever how he's playing with that. And you go through 20, 30 minutes being unaware if you're the main character you're watching is the killer or not, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. And then he does tell us. Not too far into the movie.
Like 20, 30 minutes. It's when Rusk
Yeah,
or whatever his name is goes into the dating
Rusk. Yeah,
office, yeah, with a fake name, and when she
yeah.
says,
That's
and
when
she
you
says it
catch on.
twice,
Yeah,
and you go, "Oh no, you're in danger, Will Robinson."
yeah. Will Robinson. Like, this is like, and then it's like dramatic irony. The movie after that, like,
Yeah. Well,
like playing the main character turn into Rusk. Like, help me after everything. Like,
oh, this like it's. I mean, yeah, it's like tragic comedy. This dude, and he's not a nice guy, but he is just wrongly
no.
like he is obviously wrongly accused, but like all the evidence is comically against
Oh,
him.
it's hilarious. Like when he escapes and then comes back and the guy breaks in and then he's with the dead body. It's like, oh, for God's sake! Like,
No, like if anything, I think like I have a couple of writing criticisms of the film, and one is like the inspector at the end only decides to reopen the case kind of on a whim.
yeah,
Like, what if it is Rust? Like, nothing prompted this. That and the two, which are the worst scenes in the film, was his wife. The like joke where she's cooking European food, which is it's not very funny, but also like it's like the end of Psycho, not the like with the psychiatrist, which Hitchcock famously put in under duress, and it is the worst part of Psycho
yeah,
by a mile. You have
it is.
two of
Yeah,
the exact same scene in this film, and it's like, were you paying attention, audience? We're just going to recap the last bit of the film in
yeah.
a not
Hey, this
complicated
is what
movie.
happened. Yeah, yeah. It's. I feel like it was probably made again. Who knows?
Who
But
knows? The uninterrupted like 1 minute shot of the policeman eating his full English is hysterical though.
oh man, ghost story flashbacks. Like
Rooney
Extreme
Mara eats
Cinema
a pie.
Podcast. Like, we make the craziest comparisons.
Ah, I don't think I have any comparison because I was in my head also I kind of linked this with like a British giallo, but I don't think it is on watching at all. I don't think it's got anything to do with it.
No, I think that's probably just from looking back at it when you were younger. You saw it.
Yes, and it would have been roughly the same time I started watching Argento as I was watching this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is kind of. I guess it's just when you start watching different cinema, and then it all kind of melds into one in your head. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I did watch this because I think the BFI put on like a London movie season. I'd never heard of this. I don't think I watched it there, but I had the Blu-ray of it, or I had the DVD,
mm,
or it was on telly or something, and I was like, oh, this is great. And before I rewatched it now, I used to be in the camp that it's obviously underrated in the general zeitgeist, but there are people who love this film, and it's not as good as the people who love this film say it is. But now I think I really do. Now I think it's like, I hate to be that guy who watches a Hitchcock movie and says this, but why can't we do this anymore?
yeah, yeah. No, I really like it as well. I think I loved it the first time I saw it. Um, like I said, I thought it was up there as seen as one of the great Hitchcocks. So
I
when I
wouldn't.
came into it, like I was
I
like, oh,
I know other people who think this is one of his great. I think this is B tier Hitchcock, which I mean Hitchcock, great. B tier
yeah,
Hitchcock is what Dial M for Murder, 39 Steps, kinda. Like
yeah.
that's
I'd put it there as well. I'd not put it up with like Vertigo or Psycho, but
no,
it
yeah.
is still fantastic.
Vertigo is my favorite of his. I mean, there's a reason. It's like, I know that's the cliched one to
It's
say,
Vertigo.
but yeah, it's fucking Vertigo. Of course it is. And then it's probably Rebecca. Rebecca
Oh,
is
really?
outstanding. Rebecca
Wow.
is. I was caught completely off guard by how amazing that was because it was like the Ben Wheatley remake was coming out, and I was like, well, I'm
Yeah,
not going to watch the remake, but
which
hey, may as well watch the.
sucked. But anyway,
Why doesn't that surprise me?
like, love Ben Wheatley, but my God, did that suck?
I love Ben Wheatley. I've talked to him before at a screening. He's a very nice dude, but yeah, Kill List is fucking good though, and Sightseers and
Oh
Field in
yes,
England.
Field in England. Yeah, what a film. I guess we'll just talk about Hitchcock because I want your opinion on The Birds as well because I don't know if I've ever talked to you about The Birds.
I think it's dated in a way that a lot of his films haven't dated.
Hmm.
But I really like it. I like the dark humor in that as well.
It
It
was
is
my
like
first
tense.
Hitchcock, The Birds. It was my first Hitchcock.
Mine was
Yeah,
Psycho.
I actually adore The Birds. I understand when you say it's dated, but I actually adore that film still. I mean, I've not watched it for a few years, but not too long ago. So,
No, I think I was a teenager when I watched it, but like there are some like incredibly tense scenes in that, um, and some good scares and all. But I've never actually ranked it as high as people rank because, like, yeah, like you said at the start of the podcast, like it's like Vertigo, Rear Window, Psycho, The Birds is like this golden period in North by Northwest
yeah,
as well.
North by
Um,
Northwest, yeah.
I would also put The Birds as like a B tier Hitchcock. I would put it kind of on a similar level to
Ooh,
where I put Frenzy.
maybe one day I'll do a tier list of Hitchcock.
I mean, I've seen like on Letterboxd, he is one of my most watched directors. I mean, my most watched on Letterboxd is Spielberg, which I think most people's probably would be.
Probably
But
everybody's bloody most watched, yeah.
I mean, I legitimately, I think Hitchcock like might be my second or third or fourth. And
Uh-huh.
like we said, this is his 50th films. I've seen like 1/5 of his filmography, probably, maybe a quarter, somewhere between those two.
What a guy! What a weird little guy
He
he
has
was.
had such a brand. Like, he was the first, like, he is the most famous director. Like, he is to directing what, like, Beethoven is to music or something. Like,
Oh yeah,
the thriller, the suspense film, it's him. You can't separate the two.
no, exactly. Do you think he's talked about as much now? Because
No,
I don't hear Hitchcock mentioned a great deal anymore.
you don't. And, I feel like, people like Millennial and Gen Z, when they talk about thrillers, they think Michael Mann or De Palma.
Yeah, and there's some obviously there's some weird things about the guy in general that we'll not even like.
Well, no, let's. He abused Tippi Hedren on set, supposedly.
Yeah,
Almost certainly likely.
yeah. There's some weird shit with Tippi Hedren, but you
I mean,
know,
there was a friend of Tarantino's once who said if Tarantino hadn't been a filmmaker, he would have been a serial killer. I imagine that's true of Alfred Hitchcock.
I didn't know that. That's perfect. Like,
Yeah. Uh, I mean, yeah, the man, he's an eccentric in that really subtle way. I mean, I love like all the trailers. I mean, they're actually unbearable to watch some of them, but they're such trolls, like the film
oh, they're
trailers where
so
he's
funny
in.
though. Yeah.
It's like, oh look, we are in the Bates Motel. There's
Did you
some.
see the ones for Frenzy?
No, I didn't.
Oh, where it's a Hitchcock dummy in the River Thames, and it's just him talking and introducing people to Covent Garden. It's such a weird like.
Like, if you saw those trailers in the cinema, it's so weird. I mean, it's not quite on the level of like the F for Fake trailer, which is 10-minute short
No,
film that's nothing to do with the actual film of F for Fake.
that's the most troll movie ever, though. That's why.
That is the most troll movie ever.
Like,
That's one of the best movies ever.
yeah.
You know, as well, when this was released on video in the UK, 19 seconds cut.
Oh, really? What,
Yeah, it
19
didn't escape
seconds?
the censor's wrath. It's not quite an Evil Dead, which went from, or The Exorcist, which went from past uncut to banned on video. But,
Yeah, yeah.
the fact, and I'm sure for Hitchcock, the censors would have been like, well, it's Hitchcock, and this is such a British film that they would have been very kind to it. And even still, 19 seconds. I mean, I think the most brutal bit, other than the like initial rape and murder, is the when he's it's so funny when she's taken the pin out from him and he's hiding in the back of the potatoes. That whole sequence is so slapstick. And then when he's breaking her
Yeah.
fingers, it's like horrific.
Yeah, it goes horrific. I mean, yeah. Like you said towards the start, I felt we were pushing it for extreme as well. I was like, wanted to talk about Hitchcock. This even talking about Hitchcock's probably pushing it for this after we've talked about Last House on the Left and all
I mean,
stuff
like
like
El
that.
Topo does predate this, but I mean that's this is a mainstream film frenzy. El Topo is this
That
ridiculous avant-garde
that's the
film.
thing. El Topo was very different to Hitchcock though. Like Hitchcock was the biggest director in the world. Like
Yes,
it was Hollywood. Like it's like who could I even say now? Like can't think making like something where somebody gets brutally raped in the in the first 10 minutes. Like it's crazy. Like
and it's sadomasochistic as well. And I also feel there's like this really dark humor in it that like every single character repeats and goes, well, people like that, how sick they are. Like everyone
yeah,
kind of keeps reinforcing it to like a comical degree. I think it's just got this like sardonic sense of humor throughout it. And Hitchcock clearly does think a lot of it. I mean, when he wants it to be horrific, it is horrific. But I think Hitchcock thinks a lot of this is terribly funny.
Yeah, I think he thinks it was very funny. I think I saw a quote of him saying he was going for laughs in a lot of it. Like, I
What a
mean,
mad
what an
lad.
interesting guy. Like, he wanted Michael Caine to play the killer
He
as well.
did. Yes, he
Yeah,
did, and he turned it. Michael Caine turned it down because he was like, "This character is too unpleasant." He would have killed it in the role. He would have been
that's the
amazing. Not that
thing.
he isn't amazing anyway, but
Imagine Michael Caine playing that sadistic thing. I mean, I get why he wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't think Michael Caine's ever played a character like that, really, has he? But
um, hmm. No, I mean he's played it. I could see why because I bet you Hitchcock would have seen Alfie and thought
yeah,
there's one step away from the serial killer in that.
yeah, probably. But still a little different when you.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good film. That's a very, very underrated British film. This is like post-British new wave. This is, well, there was meant to be more kind of European influence. I mean, did you read into what this was initially meant to be?
I know the Russian writer was supposed to write it, wasn't he? But I don't know exactly.
Well, this was initially going to be called Kaleidoscope. He was planned this in 1966. I've seen it referred
Mm.
to a couple of times as Kaleidoscope Frenzy, but I have a feeling that's just an unofficial title.
Yeah, I think I've seen that before, and I was confused.
Yeah, well, like in Frenzy, there's obviously references to like John Christie. Hitchcock is very true crime. I mean, Psycho is based on Ed Gein.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Psycho is based on a serial killer as well. Um, and this was meant to be based on a real life serial killer too. And he was working for this in 1966, but it was like just turned down like outright. It was, forget about a serial killer. The main character was going to be gay, so that was
Oh
obviously.
wow.
I mean, honestly, I actually joke, but that probably would have been more controversial then.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it was going to be like entirely from the killer's perspective, and you can see online he's shot an hour of test footage. You can see stills from the test footage, and you can see a tiny little reel. There was a lot of nudity in it, like it's all kind of naked women being like murdered.
No.
he
Wow.
he showed the script to Truffaut, and Truffaut was like, oh, I give you the benefit of the doubt, but this is like horrific. But it would have been about a bodybuilding serial killer who's gay in New York and gets sort of triggered by the sight of water to kill people. And it was going to have scenes including someone being dissolved in acid and necrophilia in the
Oh wow.
1960s. Yeah.
Holy
It basically, I
shit.
was reading all this and I'm like, this sounds like a full-on fucking exploitation film, and a
Yeah,
really, really out
literally.
there exploitation film from the 60s, and that was going to be a Hitchcock vehicle.
Wow, could you imagine? I kind of wish he'd done it.
Oh my
Like
god,
that.
yeah. Like
That would
like
be
we're
the
talking
most us thing. Like
10 years prior Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Insane. Like 5 years before Last House on the Left.
Jesus, that would have blown. I mean, what would that have done? Like
It would have Michael
if that
Powelled
was
him.
like that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't have cared at that point anyway. But
No, he had made films for fucking, yes, it's the 20s. That would have been like 40 years of filmmaking. He can go out with something so
yeah.
unbelievably offensive.
To be fair,
Yeah, and
that would have been a baller move if you'd have just made that and then dropped the mic. Like,
it was meant to be handheld. Well, it's kind of like Pasolini doing Salo and dropping the mic, getting shot
yeah, and
dead.
then getting killed. Yeah. Like,
Makes Salo gets assassinated. What a mad lad.
what a mad boy.
Yeah, that would have been something. It's one of the like great unmade films, Kaleidoscope.
Yeah. No, I didn't even know that. That's amazing, actually.
No, I remember on like my old website, Lost VHS, I did a article being like, here are like the unmade films, because it was when Jodorowsky's Dune documentary came out, and I
Yes,
talked
yeah,
about Dune, Napoleon, Kubrick, obviously. I
of
think
course, yeah.
Paul Verhoeven wanted to do a film about the Crusades with Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Crusader. That would have been lit.
That'd have been
Um,
awesome.
and then Kaleidoscope was on that list too when I was reading it, and I was like, wow. And yeah, like look it up like when we're done, the stills and everything. It's phenomenal.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, it came out generally positive reviews, some mixed, but like erring on the side of positive. Ebert gave it 4 thumbs up, 4 out of 4. Uh,
yeah.
said, yeah, it's macabre, filled with incongruous humor, and the desperation of a man convicted of a crime he didn't commit. Oh, the prison break sequence is so funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah.
I was thinking, this seems a bit easy to escape from prison, but then I remember like that Daniel Khalid fellow last year
Well, yeah, that's true. I think
who
I could
just
get out of
walked
prison in a
out.
day. Like, it's all about confidence. It's like dating, getting out of prison.
Just like I'm meant to be walking out.
That's what I tell them. It's like,
Yeah. Um,
when do we become stand-ups? Anyway.
what's the deal with Hitchcock? Yeah, like you said, like it's got 4 Golden Globe nominees. It's
Yeah,
generally well liked. And I think it's getting an increased reputation. I think people are finding this because it's so shocking. I mean, it still is only 18 rated film to this day. It's its only actual
yeah,
film to get an 18 rating. And it still is to this day. I think more and more people are finding this film and going, "Oh shit, this is good. This is really good."
yeah. Especially now. Like it's shocking now, but everybody's seen something now. So yeah, if you've not seen this, watch Frenzy. It's great.
What? It's really good. It's like, like I kind of, like I said, like, why can't we do this again? Like, I was just watching it being like, you know what? I'm sitting down, it's my evening. It's like turned it on, 9 o'clock, finished at 11. I'm like, I was thoroughly entertained, did not want to leave my sofa. Great little thriller by the master of suspense, and he is utilized. It's great. Oh God, I'm gonna watch more Hitchcock like next week. Like I'm in such a mood for him after that.
Yeah, same. I've not watched a Hitchcock for a while, so
No, same. This
definitely.
was I watched a bunch like during lockdown. I think that was
Hmm.
the last time, and he's one of those directors that you just go, you remember he exists, and then you want to watch like 4 films in the month.
Yeah, exactly. This put me in such a mood for it, and I'll be watching them all. And if you somehow listen to this and you've not seen Frenzy just because you saw Hitchcock or you listened to us, then watch it. It's great.
Helen Mirren was meant to be in this as well, but Helen Mirren like
Yes,
despised
so
Hitchcock.
yeah. Well, she did the film about him later on, did she?
If we could have snuck her into a guinea pig episode, we could have featured her in like every episode.
Oh wow, that's been Helen Mirren, the star of the Extreme Cinema podcast.
She is in my eyes.
Yeah, same.
I think that is kind of it, unless there's anything you
Yeah,
want to add. I mean, that really was final thoughts, essentially.
yeah. That's all I've got to say about it. Great
Final
film.
thoughts,
It's
Hitchcock,
Hitchcock.
all-time fucking great director. Watch anything he's ever done, essentially.
Yeah, watch them all. I will one day. I'm sure.
50 films, I mean, you could do it in like a few months if you really wanted to.
I'll do it in a week. Watch me.
That would make a good podcast.
Yeah, it could be
Chronologic.
actually.
Have you seen The Lodger?
No,
Oh, it's really, really, really good.
no.
Like, it's silent, but it is very tense. It's his second one. I think his first one, it was on at the BFI a while back, and I was like, oh, I'll go see it, and then I saw on Letterboxd, like, I forget what that's called. Um, Blackout, I think, or something. I could be wrong.
Hmm.
Like, everyone was kind of like, this isn't very good, but The Lodger is, like, edge of your seat stuff, especially for a silent film.
Ah, nice. I mean, I'll probably end up watching all Hitchcock at some point. You know how I get. I get my
Yeah,
things I get obsessed with. So
like when you're done rewatching Scrubs, you
yeah,
can.
when I've watched Scrubs for the 90th time or BoJack Horseman, then we'll watch all of Hitchcock.
Welcome to the Extreme Cinema Podcast, where we talk about Alfred Hitchcock's and Scrubs.
I think I've mentioned Scrubs about 5 times in this podcast.
Well, I mean, speaking of
Oh
Scrubs,
no.
let's talk about something completely different.
You're right.
I want
You
to
can
guess it's
do
a
this
comedy
one.
too. Shall I introduce it?
You do this one, yeah.
I think this might be the most mental thing we've ever talked about. Debatably, it's if the footmen tie you, what will horses do?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're coming full circle because we started with pornography and we're ending with pornography. We are doing a cult film from the 70s called Thundercrack. Watch it very legitimately on any website you would have to
Yeah.
bypass parental control to watch. It's it's a fucking one of the best cult movies ever made, one of the weirdest cult movies ever made. I cannot fucking wait to talk about it. Dom has never seen it, and I cannot
I've never
wait for
seen
their
it.
thoughts.
Me and Stoney were once on a call and I was skipping through it like, we need to do this. So that's where this came from. Like,
Oh, well, that's it for the penultimate episode of season 3. Stay tuned for our
yes.
season finale next week, which I promise you, this will be necromantic level, if Footmentayu devil story level, us losing our shit.
Yeah, and you love to hear me lose my shit. So.
All right, take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Extreme Cinema Podcast with Alexander Sternberg and Dom Loach. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing as it really helps us out. The original artwork for the podcast was done by George Arnold. The Extreme Cinema Podcast, available where all good podcasts are available.